my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and I'm at the Ottawa Comic Con. I'm just about to talk to Tom Fowler. He did a whole bunch of really cool comics. He's working on the more modern EC books, and I'm going to just have a chat with him. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
It's cool. He's doing some cool art as he's doing this interview with me, and so quickly, I know we were chatting for a while before this,
Right.
but give a quick background into how you got into doing comic art.
I mean, I've always drawn since I don't remember a time I didn't have a pencil in my hand. And when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a newspaper cartoonist because that was my main focus. That
Like
was
do
what I
the
was
comic
doing.
strips kind of idea?
Yeah, like Garfield or whatever.
Would you
And-
come up with?
I came up with all sorts of characters.
Oh, that's really
I don't
cool.
remember any of them, but it was partially because that's what I was, reading and stuff. But it was also partially because my parents didn't really want us reading comic books.
Okay.
So, by which they meant American comic books. They were quite happy to buy us Tintin and Asterix, and
Okay.
when you grow up in Canada, especially if you're in French immersion. You're in
Yeah,
elementary.
Asterix was the big one, right?
Yeah, exactly. But if you're in elementary school, you have your library period, and if you're in French immersion, you go to the library and you take out one English book and you take out one French book. And the great thing about French libraries is they're full of comic books.
Yeah.
So everybody would get like bande dessinée all the time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So and that was no problem for them.
It's interesting how many Canadian artists say that bande dessinée actually led to them getting into becoming an artist.
Absolutely. I mean, because again, it was something that was readily available to us.
Yeah.
Without a language barrier, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and we were being bought Tintin and Asterix and things like that. We were reading them in English, and primarily my folks just didn't want us getting addicted to comics because they were these floppy little garbage things. They always said to be continued and whatever. And when I was a little kid, we went to dinner at a friend of my dad's place, the cottage, and she had been an elementary school teacher.
Okay.
And to keep my brother and I occupied, she just plunked down this giant cardboard box full of comic books.
Oh wow.
And our eyes just went, oh my God.
That's awesome.
And my parents made a face. And she went up one side of them and down the other about like how valuable they were, how they helped kids learn how to read, how they taught them how to, genuinely focus on what a story, how the story would go. And
I mean, I've learned so many people have said that comics were what got them into reading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I got into a huge argument with one of my kids' teachers years ago because he didn't want kids. Like they had a program. We'll put a pin in things. But they had a program where he had kind of monetized their reading.
Yeah.
But only certain kinds of books would count, and comics
didn't count. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I was sitting there in a parent-teacher interview with them, and just trying not to scream at him.
Yeah.
And saying like, look, listen, like you've commodified reading, and that's not a bad thing in this context. But think of it this way: like you had a kid who was a nervous reader. They weren't totally sure about reading, and they spent the summer reading Bone, reading Amulet, reading whatever, and they came back to school, and you just told them none of that counts.
Yeah, it doesn't count as real reading.
Exactly, which is bullshit, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to swear. All right, so Mary-Eve went up one side of my parents' comic. Right? My mom hates me telling this story. But I always kind of have to because it's very much my supervillain origin.
Yeah.
Right? When after the summer was done, we got home to Timmins. My dad hit a bunch of garage sales, and this was back when garage sales were awesome, and people were just selling huge boxes of comic books. So he came home one day with this huge run of like Marvel, Star Wars comics.
Oh, that's cool.
A couple superhero things here, and like a bunch of Gold Key funny animal books, right?
I grew up on funny animal books, by the way.
and it was amazing, and my mother gave in, and she was like, okay, you can go down to the corner store, you can buy a comic book. However, you are not allowed to buy anything that says "to be continued" at the end.
That's
So I have
weird.
the end. Again, she didn't want me wasting my money getting addicted.
Yeah.
Little did she know.
Yeah.
So I have the ends of a lot of runs. You know.
That'd be really annoying.
One of the first comics I bought myself was like the last issue of Contest of Champions.
Just to know
with
what
the
it's
skull
got.
and on the cover and stuff. So that was that was kind of my origin. Like, and by that point, I was hooked. I was in. Like, I was like, okay, this. I still maybe I want to do like my own Garfield, but really I want to do this.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Ottawa like 5 days before my 11th birthday.
Okay.
And there were these stores here where you could buy comic books.
Yeah.
And that was that.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
There was no stopping.
And since then, you worked on Rick and Morty. You've worked on.
I mean, I worked on Venom. I worked on Hulk. I worked on Django Fett. I worked on Batman, was my first DC job.
Oh, that's a big one.
I've done like a ton of weird little journeyman things. Like I've done horror comics, comedy books. I worked for Valiant. I worked for DC. I worked for Marvel. I worked for Dark Horse. I worked for Oni. I worked for.
Wow.
I've worked for pretty much every publisher.
Yeah.
And it's just like whatever job somebody calls me up to do. And it was always just that, right? And now I'm, writing a bit more of my own ticket. But I'm back working with Oni again because I wrote Rick and Morty for a little while.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was years ago. That was pre-pandemic. And then more recently, an editor that I had been working with at Dark Horse moved over to Oni and brought me with it.
And so is that the Cruel Universe stuff that you're working
That's
on?
the EC stuff, So he started me doing EC covers, and then they gave him Rick and Morty to edit, and he said, "Do you want to do a bunch of Rick and Morty covers?" And I was like, "Yep." So I'm doing covers for both of those.
This might seem like a weird question, but this is just a personal pet peeve, and I'm going to bring it up. I love the stuff. I love
It's the names?
It's the names.
They don't have the, it's because the licensor,
They don't have the rights?
well, I mean, Tales from the Crypt was a TV show.
Oh,
and a series of movies.
Okay.
So those
But
rights.
how about Vault of Horror or a Chamber of Chills?
Again, like I
Not
think
Chamber
all
of
of
Chills,
that stuff would have been bundled together and sold to whatever media company. So
Okay.
they don't have the rights to do that stuff. They have the rights. The licensor has the rights to EC. But they don't necessarily have the publishing rights to that bundle. It's the same way that Spider-Man is made by Sony
it's so
and not
messed
Marvel,
up.
right?
Yeah.
So like the way these IP agreements get structured, they get bundled together, and
it's just annoying to me because it'd be
I
cool.
mean,
I love the
it is
fact
what
that
it is,
it looks so easy, and then it's not quite there.
But I mean, they hired Ryan Hughes. He did an amazing job with the logos. Like it looks great.
I mean, it looks great. Looks great.
And
they're cool actually.
Yeah, it's a dream job for me.
It's on my pull box. I get all the different ones. And you do a lot of the covers, right?
Yeah, I do mostly variant covers for them. But again, like I'm in a kind of a unique situation with it, which I genuinely love. And again, it is a dream job for me that I pitch the covers to them. They don't come to me and say like, we want you to draw this. And so, whenever I have a horrible thought, I draw it on my iPad along with two other horrible thoughts, and I send them to them, and they say we want A and C.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
then I just draw them up, and that's it. There's no schedule to it. There's no kind of we need a cover. Like I don't even know if they're going to go on a Vault of Horror or not Vault of Horror.
Same
an Abyss or or whatever.
See, the names
or a
are
Cruel
annoying.
Universe. Oh, I know when it's going to be a Cruel Universe because there'll be space in there somewhere.
Of course.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So, I just come up with a little square of absolute horror and insanity and
so where do you get your inspiration for horrible ideas, I guess? I don't know how to ask that question.
Like the thing that I do just to entertain myself or to wind down is this thing that I do over there. You can scroll over to it called Affable Space Monsters.
Wait, oh yes, here, I'm going to just show the audience.
I learned years ago that when I was burning out and getting very depressed because everything I did was for somebody else. I learned that what I needed to do was
have some doodles of your own, or
it was to carve out time to draw for myself the way I drew when I was a kid to make myself feel safe. You know, like when you're bullied at school, girls won't talk to you, whatever. You go to your bedroom, you draw.
Draw.
Right? when that becomes the thing that pays your mortgage, it doesn't make you feel safe anymore. Right?
Man, I never had heard that put better in my life.
And it's like having a security blanket with teeth. You know, so it really did my head in. So I learned that, you know, when we're just sitting having family time in front of the TV or whatever, it used to be a sketchbook, now it's my iPad. I just pull it out and start moving my hand around, you know. And
really
eventually
cool.
your sense of pattern recognition kicks in, and you're like, well, this looks like a carapace of some kind, and I'll put a leg, and it's okay, so this guy is a lobster guy, and you just kind of move on like that, and then you start thinking about, like, the drawing tells you what it wants to be. Right? And then you start thinking about, well, this lobster guy's planet, what do trousers look like? And you start, you know, doing stuff like that, right? So that's what I do in my spare time. And it's called Affable Space Monsters. I have another series of drawings I do called Rare Breeds, which basically they're pets. Affable Space Monsters is friendly aliens on their way to and from their coffee break. They have a very good union. They get along. Space Pets is basically, Rare Breeds is basically their pets. They're space pets. It's like Crufts in space, right? So the idea with that stuff is to take things that would you would find scary and make them look friendly.
Yeah, I mean, they look cute in a weird way.
Exactly, and like I said, they're affable space monsters. In any other context, you would think they were monsters, but these are figures you would want to run into in a dark alley, right? So, so on the flip side of that is the horror stuff I do, which is very much making things that should make you feel safe and friendly.
But
and
not
making
so
them scary,
making them
right?
scary.
Like so, it's the same kind of pendulum swinging from side to side.
And do you ever look back at some of the EC covers and say, "Oh, this is kind of an inspiration"?
Every so often, like, because I'm a huge fan of the EC stuff. I have like a bunch of the. I have a bunch of stuff. I have a bunch of the artist editions, things like that. So I have a big library to look back over and see, like, okay, well, what kinds of, for lack of a better term, what kind of gags were they pulling? What were the narratives on their covers? And there's a wide variety of things. And I always like, when I do a cover, I like to tell a little story. Any commission I do, I like to tell a little story, right? And it doesn't need to be.
To me, that's the best type of cover.
I like to tell a story, and again, because in the English language, comics has no real vocabulary. The only way to describe it is a gag. Right? Not necessarily funny. But it's a gag.
It's something. It's a visual gag.
Yeah, there's a narrative push to it, even if it doesn't have like a beginning, middle, and end. There's still there's a doing is being done.
I get that.
Even if it's like two figures going at it, there's something going on there. There's a narrative to that fight. But I want to be able the audience to look at like a single image and pull back and see a story that's being told. Right. And so a lot of it is just like sitting down and thinking, okay, what is the thing that makes you feel safe? Okay, now
take that and
what is the thing that would turn that inside out? I mean, for instance, I did. It hasn't come out yet, but I just did a cover. One of the bloodiest covers I've done. Like literally, the color notes for it were red. It's very, and it's basically it's a prom queen. It's called Scream Queen. And I name all the covers that I do.
That's cool.
Because again, I don't know what books are going on. But it's a prom queen who has done a reverse Carrie. So she's turned into a monster, and she's eaten the prom committee.
Oh wow!
On stage.
Oh, that's cool.
And her prom date in his powder blue tuxedo, and she's holding him up still in one of her gnarled tongues, and she's got a million little needle teeth and a smile this wide. And his whole head is hanging off because she's eaten his throat.
I'm totally probably this is going to be in my poll box.
Exactly. So, cool. But I came up with that idea because I had to deliver my son to his graduation ceremony like an hour early. So I brought my iPad with me. And in the meantime, all these high school kids are dressed up like it's prom because they're graduating.
Perfect models.
They all get to wear their heels. They all, so they're all running around. I'm like, oh, well, this is a good context to doing this, and I started thinking about prom, and for me, I think about prom, I immediately think of Carrie, and I was like, okay, I'll do a reverse Carrie.
I always
you
think
know?
of the pig blood, coming down, right?
So it's prom blood.
Yeah. That's cool.
But that's, I mean, that's just, like I said, it's the same kind of thing, and a lot of times when I'm coming up with them, again, it's the same kind of thing. You just start your hand moving, and your sense of pattern recognition comes
and then
in,
it becomes
and you're
something.
like, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I guess I'm drawing a cowboy. Well, how do I turn this upside down? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But when it works, you track it down. You try and push it as far as it'll go. And you see how much you can get away with in a narrative that is made up of one single image. And that's I suppose. I mean, it must be a skill. I hope it's a skill. But
well, obviously it works. It's worked for you.
It's a thing. It's a thing that seems to have been the defining nature of my career. Because people love it when I do commissions. That's what I do in my commissions. And when I get a chance to do a cover, that's what I do in the cover. Right. So
very cool.
It's what I do.
Very nice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And I'm just going to quickly go up and show Tom Fowler. And I will probably get your card, and I will put all.
I don't have one of those, but also I'll just say right now, Instagram.
Okay, Instagram.
Tom Fowler Art.
Okay, Tom Fowler Art on Instagram.
Blue Sky, Tom Fowler.
Okay, Blue Sky.
Kara, Tom Fowler.
Okay, that makes it easy.
And Threadless, tomfowler.threadless.com. Buy my stuff.
Buy lots of his stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you again.
Thank you.